rate the center backs
Mm-hmm.
over these last 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
Tim Ream is solid. The guy's so just quietly good, and his passing's excellent. I actually like Miles' defending better. I'll throw that into the mix.
Now, last game, Trusty was the better of the two.
Over McKenzie, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say that these two tonight played a better opponent and were a little bit more solid than the other two. So I would probably go. I really liked Miles tonight, but maybe my bar was a little bit lower because we hadn't seen him in a while, and I haven't caught too many Atlanta United games. The one that he missed, they gave up 4 goals, which really kind of speaks to his influence, especially in the back line, or 5 goals or 6 goals. I don't know how many goals they gave up to the Crew, but oh man, I want to say Miles first, Tim Ream second, Trusty third, and Mark McKenzie 4.
And then outside backs for Heath?
Ream first and Miles Robinson second. It's like flipping a coin. But I was just really happy to see Miles back and such a force that when you see him playing that way, like, man, what would Heath look like if he had been healthy and playing for us at the World Cup?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Heath, what about outside backs?
No, I mean, I know where you're coming from, Jimmy, because it's really hard. Like you have to judge it on a handicap based on the opponent, right? Because
you have
especially for our fullbacks, where you're like always like today they were tested more in areas where you had to be sharp, you had to play quick, you had to have ideas. But I expect that from our best fullbacks, and neither of them did that. So they fall on the depth, like based on this camp, based on performances. I've got Scally, and then I've got Scally. Reynolds is number 2. Again, I thought he has a long way to go, but just Dest in terms of it's really hard to take the bias of like what I know he can do versus what he did. He wasn't bad, but like just doesn't look sharp. And obviously,
Did you see when he tried to do that no-look pass and it got cut out in the middtle of the field?
He did do another no-look pass though. That was pretty sick. That was
I know.
Clean
it's the high risk, high reward guy, and I love that about him. But
and this one was just like a simple combination play up near the top of the box. But And then Jedi Robinson just looks tired, to be honest with you. He's been on the grind. Slow. Yeah, he's been on the grind. He looked slow to react, slow to get forward. He almost rarely saw him bomb forward in the way that he did before. Just sort of almost what I liked about his game generally was not today, but he usually pins back a winger, forces them to have to defend really early on, right? Chase him constantly. And if you're a winger, that gets annoying after a while where you either got to start cheating forward, or if he's winning that battle, you got to play honest and track him back a bunch of times. And that usually sets that battle on good footing for him to win that 1v1 battle. But he just kind of looks tired, a little bit off the mark. And we've seen him over the last couple of months just sort of look like he's struggling to find the rhythm of the match, of the game, of the moment, and his passes are off and someone's running diagonal, he's playing it inside, or vice versa, and those sort of things. He just sort of looks off a beat. That looks like he just needs a break. So they both dropped in my book, so I'm going to go with those other two.
Interesting.
Necessarily just
we gave up a goal against Granada. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, we did, but like, again, it's a hard thing to judge like game to game because they're 2 completely different matches.
Sure. All right, let's skip midfield for now. We'll do that one collectively. Let's go to the front 3. Charlie, how would you rank the front 3 in these last 2 games?
Yeah, I don't think Christian had a great game today, but he was phenomenal in the first one. Obviously, you look at the opponent and the tactics of the opponent. So, man, Pepi was good. So I'm going to go with Pepi as 1, just because as a striker, your main responsibility is to finish and make
3
good
goals
runs.
in 2 games.
So he's 1 for me. Pulisic is 2. 3 is Zendejas. 4 is Aronson.
Ooh.
And then, I guess Gio Reyna is an attacking midfielder. Today, in the second half, he was much better, but largely, you felt like he was carrying the pressure with him. That's what it felt like to me, because the moments that we saw in the second half today, you're saying, I need that more often. You have it in you. If you want to do it, it's very simple. You can do it. Just take over the game. You have that ability. But it feels like he was just kind of cruising. He was getting, wasn't really giving it what that position needs from him. Mm-hmm, and for me, I'm always going to have my expectations for him super high, because we know how good he can be and how good he is. And, it's similar to Christian. Sometimes it's unfair that you have that much quality, But at the end of the day, you need to deliver. And we just didn't see enough of Gio Reyna's ability over these 2 matches. Now, obviously, these are just 2 matches, but we need to see more progress from him. And I hope the next round, which is going to be most likely against Mexico, he shows up and we see that second half in the first 10 minutes, that Gio Reyna every single time.
Yeah, I'm. What about DK? So DK's what, bottom on your list?
Yes.
Yeah. And Taylor Booth now, like no rating, didn't play enough, I guess, would kind of fall into
that. Yeah. I mean, he'd be slightly above DK. So.
Oh man, DK.
Taylor Booth does look like he's got something in him though. Like you see little tiny touches and things like that. And if you watched it, again, I'm judging more off the club than in his camp, but like DK just looks like, again, people ask like, is he not international quality? I think he'll always, as long as he's scoring goals, he'll be knocking on the door of this pool, because you always need a different dynamic of strikers in your pool. You can't have them all be the same type of striker, but he's got a ways to go, I think.
What I think what you're trying to say is, as long as you're scoring goals with your club, you'll be a candidate for the group. But when you say international quality, that's a difference maker. That's somebody who can step on the pitch and not just play against CONCACAF opponents, Grenada, Cuba, Dominican Republic, El Salvador. We're talking can play in a Copa America against an Argentina, Brazil, Venezuela, and have success.
Yeah, sound like you're talking about me, man. It's crazy.
I don't know.
International quality. Sounds like a left back that did like 35 games with the national team, played in some big tournaments, like that kind of guy. Like that consistency. Most in 2008 type of guy. You know what I mean?
I feel like Jordy Peacock just took a stray right now. I don't know.
Jordy Peacock. But I think what I'm trying to say is that it's not that DK is never going to be international quality striker. It's just right now he has a ways to go to develop into that player. And it's one thing to score goals in the championship. It's another thing to be an effective striker with this group. And the qualities that is needed as a 9 in this group is to be able to make runs, to open up space, to be able to hold up the ball, but also to sense when a striker needs to get some touches, build some confidence so that the center back has to come out now and follow you because you can run at some players. Also, play some balls into the channels. Like being able to be diverse and different and not so one-dimensional. And for me, DK is all one-dimensional right now. That's not saying he can't be multi-dimensional and a threat in different ways. But right now,
Chuck doesn't like Daryl DK. I think
I know
that's what he's saying.
I almost Chuck hates Daryl DK. If Chuck had a T-shirt on right now, it might say that. But the truth is like we are critical of Daryl DK, but let's not forget about the player pool that we have at striker position. Peacock was indifferent in a lot of performances, right? We saw Ferreira indifferent in a lot of performances. Ricardo Pepi indifferent in a lot of performances in big moments during qualifying, right? We saw a number of guys that were just indifferent, completely indifferent in terms of their impact on games consistently, which is why this conversation is still going. You go back into certain other generations, you had your striker at least, might not be the guy, but it was at least a separation from the others to know like who our strikers were.
And that's why we all want to see Balogun come to play for the U.S. That's why everyone is so hyped about Balogun, because he has all of those different qualities and he's scoring it in Liga, which is a super difficult league. He's among the top goal scorers. So to have that type of player, along with your Ricardo Pepis and your Josh Sargents and your Jordy Peacocks or Haji Wrights and Daryl DKs, you have a number of different options, but this is an elite striker with a high ceiling and someone that's a game changer for this group.
Well, I can't wait till Balogun commits and then he has an indifferent performance with you too, because you guys are just going to lose your shit.
No.
Like, what does this Balogun guy do? I can't even connect with these guys. Can't even hold the ball. What are they doing?
I'll be like this.
All right. So before we move on to our second break, let's talk about the midfielders then in terms of who stood out. Yunus Musa, Weston McKennie, Luca De La Torre. Johnny Cardoso had a cup of coffee there at the very end against El Salvador, so he won't be rated, but I guess we have 3 to choose from. How are we ranking those guys? Weston McKennie scored 2 goals. Should have scored again tonight. Didn't, but had the assist to Ricardo Pepi. But had some moments of maybe being a little bit out of position, maybe trying to do too much. That's what I love about him, though. You don't want to take what he loves about the game away from him. But if you are filling in at the 6, or if you're trying to do a different position, sometimes less is more. That's what I would say there. Yunus Musah,
midfielder.
Yeah, Weston was.
Yeah, Weston was.
Well, he's got the numbers to back it up too. Yunus, I thought was quiet. He came over to Anthony Hudson like 16 minutes into the game to like either get some water or get some. I was like, oh my God, Yunus Musah's on the field. I didn't even know he's on the field. So
but there's a couple times when he gets the ball, and
I get it.
Technique and confidence on the ball when he looks at 3 players defending in front of him and goes, I'm gonna go past you first of all, and then I'm gonna go to the next guy and I'm probably gonna beat you, and then I'm gonna find the next pass. You're like, oh my God, that kid's got something insane in terms of his ability to just explode in and out of tight spaces. But what I will say on the midfielders is that we should probably be looking into our pool of players right now, figuring out who is our next number 6. Because if Tyler Adams is not always available, I do not think we have a solution. I'm going to chuck a name out there. If you've been watching Major League Soccer so far, Aiden Morris, probably the best 6 in the league right now, young player. And I think he might not be there yet, but I'm thinking through that right now about who's the next 6, because we need somebody coming through. And we can't just, I think we've learned through this pool of players that you cannot just drop a 6 is a specialty position now, especially in the way that we play, that we need somebody. And it's not De La Torre, and it's not Weston McKennie, and it's not Yunus Musah. It's a different type of profile. And again, I don't think we have that right now.